fellow beautiful unified Americans. Hope you are having a beautiful day today. We are headed into the soon-to-be post-Joe Biden experiment. I think I learned a few things from this election we just had. So I put on my gloves because now we officially have a cool front that has gone by. Earlier today it was nice and warm, had the windows open, and right now it's chilly and blustery. That front has worked its way through. So anyway, the post-Joe Biden experiment. America spoke up on the election. Today is November 7th. And in the aftermath, a Trump quake has shattered the District of Columbia. So there you have it. There it is. The shot heard round the world. President-elect Donald J. Trump is our 47th president of the United States. Nothing is going to change that now. I watched Joe Biden's short little 2-minute presser earlier. He gave a little speech to the nation and said that we need a peaceful transfer of power. Trump won a fair election. There's nothing to dispute, and let's get on with it. So what does that mean? That means that the current administration is doing everything they can to sabotage Trump when he gets in office. It's like Obama did. So that's nothing new. And you know, they did some shenanigans to ensure that Ukraine keeps getting money by empowering the European Union to actually spend our money in a pact having to do with NATO. So Trump may not be able to defund Ukraine. So the alternative beside that is, I think Trump's just going to broker peace. So anyway, the point being, they already did a preemptive strike on the Trump presidency to prevent Trump from removing money away from the Ukraine war. Which I got to tell you, Trump wouldn't do that if the war was necessary. So anyway, when Trump does get in office, I assume that's going to quickly go away, because basically Trump is going to have control of the purse strings for NATO and the UN. And the United States is going to stop pissing our money away. They didn't like what Trump did the last time, forcing other countries to pay their fair share. And we're going to see a lot of things with this new administration that's coming up. So we're going to have our dream team in place. Tulsi Gabbard has already been talking about this administration sabotaging Trump before he even gets there. So it's not like nobody's aware of it. Trump's been there before. He saw what was done to him before. So that's what we're going to see. We are going to see, because nobody sore loses like Democrats, okay? That's just the way it is. So we've already seen, probably not aware of it because I don't think the media has really covered it, but we have had 3 calls for protest already in 3 major cities. And we'll cross the street here. 3 calls to protest in major cities having to do with Palestine and Trump. They were protesting Trump, and they all had Palestine signs. And so again, that's one of those well-funded .orgs, I call them, these groups that organize online, these websites backed by billionaires. They have a lot of money. That's why when you see these protests, a lot of the people have the same signs. They're printed ahead of time, which costs money. And so we see all that stuff. And last night, there were 3 protests. One was in Chicago, the other in New York, and the other one in Philadelphia. And they had a lot of people at them. But they weren't violent. And my opinion on that is if you're going to protest, go ahead. It's America. It's not illegal. Just don't get violent. So, the good news, okay, and this is really good news, okay, and I'm not going to belittle it, is that President Trump didn't just win. He smashed everything. The Democrats are embarrassed. I don't think they realized that they were going to lose this badly. And all across the country, with the exception of very few places, it was the biggest red wave since Ronald Reagan in 1984. And that is a mandate. That is instant change. That is the American people spoke. So that's what happened with that. American people spoke. We have a new president. It's going to be awesome. And we have people across here. Kids are in school, on the playground, recess, I guess, getting ready to get out. So with all this being said, the bottom line is, last night's win, if it had been close, and, you know, Trump hadn't won the popular vote again, he had just barely squeaked through by a couple of electoral college votes, you'd see a lot more protesting. But it's pretty hard to protest that decisive of a victory. This smashes everything that the left was doing, and at this point it's so bad that if they do go out and commit violence, they're just going to vindicate Trump, and nobody's going to be upset when the National Guard puts an end to it. So at the end of the day, it's all for naught. And I'm going to flip the camera around. Hi everybody. As you can see, it's cold again. That brings me to my next topic. The next topic, as soon as I put my camera back together here, my stick. That being the Electoral College Compact. Remember that thing? You heard me complain about it on my walks. And you know, the Democrats just could not wrap their heads around a Republican candidate winning the popular vote, because realistically one hadn't won the popular vote since Ronald Reagan. So actually since George Bush, 2004, excuse me. Before that was Ronald Reagan. So They figure, well, we'll just get rid of the Electoral College because we don't want somebody like Trump to be president. So what does Trump do? He wins the popular vote. So are they going to rethink this? You know? Because realistically, they just enacted that in Maine. It doesn't take effect until they have enough to have 270. So right now it's around 205, 215 I think actually. So when they get to 270, this will kick in the states that agree to it. And there's going to be a lot of constitutional problems with that when it does. It'll be challenged. You're going to see some states pass legislation ahead of time saying that we're not going to acknowledge it as a state. And because what it does is, hi doggy, hi. So what they thought is, we got a killer dog coming to get me. So what they thought was that they're not changing the Electoral College. It's still going to exist. They're just changing their own state rules and say, well, we're going to award the Electoral College votes to the popular vote winner. So, because of that, they're going to have to change how they do things. Hi, how you doing? So because of that, they're going to have to change how they do things. So we got another dog that wants to eat me. So they want to change the rules because they can't get rid of the Electoral College. It's constitutional. So they want to change their state rules to adhere to that. So I don't know what other states that aren't going to be a part of that are going to do. The real problem for them, though, is this is done on a state level. Someday Maine gets a Republican majority. They can go ahead and remove it with votes. So it's not very popular among Maine voters, a lot of them. So, but at the same time, guess who won this election? The popular vote goes to Donald Trump. So that means all 4 of Maine's Electoral College votes, if this had been enacted, would go to Donald Trump instead of the one he just got. You see how that works? So, ooh, that's a steep hill. So basically, that plan would have backfired on them. Because Trump won the popular vote, he would have got California's 55 Electoral College votes. He would have gotten Oregon, Washington, Colorado, all the states that he didn't win last night. They would have been forced by their own law to give Trump the Electoral College votes. So I'm wondering if they're going to rethink this strategy. We'll see what happens. But isn't that funny? Because I had said that on my walk, and I'm sure you thought it too. What happens if Republicans start winning? And Democrats never think of those things. They look at the immediate results. Because because they feel like they're invincible, because they're arrogant. And last night they got, Tuesday night, they got everything they deserve. All of it. Comeuppance. Remember I said that on my walks? The Democrats need a serious case of comeuppance. They need to lose big. They need to lose badly. They need to be embarrassed. And now they're going to have their corrupt children out protesting, making it worse for Democrats, because that BS is what led to their loss Tuesday. So all of the woke bullshit I'm anticipating is going to dry up like a turd in the wind and blow away. And the reason why I say that is Trump campaigned heavily in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, in districts that had high amounts of white females that hate Trump. The campaign geared their anti-trans, stop transing our children, I will get rid of it if you vote for me. Trump won those 3 counties that they ran those heavy ads in. So it's not a coincidence. People are afraid for their children because of Democrats. So these woke politics, if you were waiting to see what would happen in this election, that's the good news. I fully anticipate that these people are going to tone down their rhetoric and stop pushing that stuff, because that's what the public demands. So, and I said that's what needs to happen for real change to occur. And we got that Tuesday. We got it. Tenfold. This is huge. This is the biggest red wave flip since Ronald Reagan in 1984. Trump is now a legend. The people did not buy the Democrat bullshit. We should be very happy about that. Trump even doubled his 18 to 30-year-old voter base, which includes independents, maybe a few Democrats. Trump got 25% of the male black vote. Doubled in 2020. Trump got 49.5% of the Hispanic vote. That's women, men, and that includes Cubans, Latinos, Latin America, Mexican, Puerto Rican. And if you want to know anything, if you want to know absolute truth about this whole Puerto Rican pile of garbage stuff that comedian did at Trump's Madison Square Garden rally, well, Trump flipped Miami-Dade in Florida, probably the biggest Puerto Rican population in southern Florida. So Trump, the racist, the orange Hitler, the Nazi, has peeled off large portions of the Democrat voting base of color. Now, we're never going to see things like the percentage of LGBT that voted for Trump, but I can tell you, I'm sure it did the same thing as the other minorities. So there you have it, you know. Trump won across the board on everything. New York Times had a map which had these red arrows on it in all these counties across the country that went more red since 2020, and there's barely a blue speck in there. It's like 95 to 98% red. This was a monumental shellacking, okay? It's going to take the Democrats many years to recover from this, if they ever do. Because right now, I was watching pundits on TV, and you got these people on there still hanging on to misogyny. They lost because of misogyny. So, truth of the matter is these people don't think Trump is racist. They didn't buy it. And they voted for him because his policies make sense. Democrats didn't have any policies, and the ones they had, it was basically communism. So America's never going to go California, folks. They're just not. And mark my words, Gavin Newsom is not going to be the candidate for the Democrats in 2028 because he has monumentally destroyed California. They're going to have their own mess to deal with because they don't have a Trump to elect there. So they're going to have more of the same problems for a long time to come. And you know, when you have major oil corporations that have been there for 150 years in California, they're packing up and leaving and taking their billions of tax dollars with them, they're in trouble. And it's an example of what would have happened to the United States if Kamala had won. It would have been that, and it would have been worse. So, thank you, lucky stars. Thank the man upstairs. Thank you, God, for giving America back to its citizens, which is exactly what's happened. We are going to be entering a gilded age of America, a new golden era. We still have some difficulties to overcome. We are going to have saboteurs, but we're used to that, aren't we? We're used to that. These well-funded .orgs, the closer we get to Inauguration Day, especially after the judge in New York drops this against Trump, which he'll have to, and people realize Trump's not going to jail. And we still have a bunch of people in this country that believe those prosecutions and convictions of Trump were legit, and they're not. And that's because of the media. If the media had gotten right on this in the beginning and say this is just going to hurt the Democrats in the election, which I'm sure they knew, but they couldn't say it because they're controlled, okay? That's controlled speech. That's not free speech. So the media no longer represents free speech. So that's why, you know, you can watch them for a laugh if you want to, but don't ever trust these fucking people ever again. Ever. I'm telling you, they're not going to change. So these people cannot be trusted, not ever again. So anyway, that being said, we're going to enjoy this victory. A lot of good things are going to happen. Today it was already announced officially that RFK is going to have full reign to restructure the FDA and the CDC. Last time I mentioned it, it was rumored to be that. Now it's official. And I guess he's been given a couple interviews to the media. They keep trying to come at him as he's an anti-vaxxer and all this stuff. And RFK has never been an anti-vaxxer. He has been an anti-mRNA protocol for the giblet. Okay, the giblet I can't talk about on here, but you know what I'm talking about. But RFK is fully vaccinated for things with real vaccines. I don't have anything against real vaccines, you know. I just don't trust this new technology they have, and I'll just leave it at that. So I avoid the flibbity gibbets. So anyway, with that being said, any medical decisions that you have to make for yourself, you should consult your doctor. And if you go see a doctor that does not adhere to your beliefs and what you like, then get another one. Freedom of choice in America, right? So anyways, we're going to walk on here, and the trees, as you can see, are shed their leaves for the most part. A few hangers on up there, but we're going to get snow soon, and I know that because already in the media, Flagstaff, Arizona got snow today, quite a bit. They're up in the mountains, so that's not unusual for them, but it is a telling sign that winter is here, and it is going to be cool this week. It'll warm up a little next week, but we're definitely going to have low 30s overnight coming up, and so anyway, Colorado. I was watching a live stream on YouTube earlier. Colorado currently today is getting 2 to 3 feet of snow in a certain part of Colorado, and pretty mountainous territory, so it's not unusual for them. And so anyway, watching the video of that, I was like, oh, that's coming here. So we'll have that here soon enough. We have had times in the past where we would get 8 to 10 inches of snow this week in November. So I think it was November 8th, if I remember right. It was right around voting day, but there was no election that year. It was an off year, thankfully. So now the shadows are getting long. It's in the afternoon, and the shadows are about where they used to be at 8:30 at night over the summer. It's going to be dark soon. I do believe I have time to finish my walk before it gets dark. And so it's, you know, we won. We friggin' won. So what's the media going to do this time? Okay? What is the media going to do this time? Are they going to analyze every single Trump tweet like they did before and make news cycles out of it? Trump won so big and by so much that now he is controlling politics in this country, and the Democrats are the underdogs. And it's getting closer to the Republicans winning the House, like I suspected. Now I think everybody agrees, and the experts as well, that Republicans are actually going to retain the House and probably gain more seats than they had before the election. So this is a very, very thorough rebuke by the public on Democrats. And the reason why I'm watching all of this is because Eric Swalwell, who hates Trump, made posts on social media encouraging people to protest and get out in the streets. And not long after he did that, that's what happened. So there is some internal email list that these people get about protests that are going on, and they're promoting it. And I've seen AOC online making comments about we're entering a period of fascism and we're going to lose our rights. So they're going to do the full-blown booga 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 fear-mongering. Trump's going to come into office and he's just going to do a good job. I think he doesn't have anything to prove anymore. He won this battle decisively, okay? I mean, he didn't just squeak through and win. He smashed the system. He smashed the electorate. He smashed the media. He cut through and showed the country how bad these people are, and the people saw it. Because the American people, the voters, are not stupid. I'm not talking about that quarter to a third of the electorate that would vote for a pine tree if it was their candidate. I'm talking about the people that think, got to pay their rent, and they realize that the abortion issue is not the biggest issue. It's the economy. And the media just saying, well, the economy is great. What are they talking? Well, if you own stocks and bonds, it's probably awesome. But if you're trying to pay your fucking rent and buy food, no, it's not good right now. Put gas in the car, feed your kids, come up with the copay for your kid's doctor's appointment. I mean, this is not easy times for people. And that's how they voted. So there's a thing called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, okay? It's like a pyramid. It's what's important to people in their life for survival. I learned about that in college in my basic psychology course, interpersonal relationships, and that was a big deal. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a pyramid, and it has your priorities as a person. This has how security ties into being able to eat, have shelter, and take care of your family, and how that figures into security. Because financial security is personal safety and well-being, and for your family. And Democrat policies have hurt people in that very badly. So you can't come on with your media in tow, pushing a narrative that everything's great, the economy's awesome. Look at the Dow, look at the stock market, look at, stock market's an indicator. So, but you can't do that and say, well, we're going to raise taxes on corporations because they need to pay their fair share. Well, what happens with that? What happens when you start over-regulating corporations? Prices go up. Then you got the price of fuels because of this climate stuff. Everything the Democrats do is the opposite of helping people. So, hopefully they learned a big lesson. I don't think so. I think they're going to continue to do what's been causing them to lose, thinking if they just keep doing the same thing that caused them to lose over and over again, they'll get a different result. They won't. So, Trump is going to do things in office that's going to trigger them, and they're not going to be able to shut up. So, this is all good, because Trump derangement syndrome is going to make us more powerful, because these people are not going to learn from it. So there's that. And so anyway, with all of that, we got all this stuff going on, and it's all good. There's nothing bad here. These people going out organizing protests. I don't care how much you protest in this country. It's allowed. It's a given right under the Constitution, okay? Go out and protest. If you hate that Trump's your president that much, go out and scream it to the heavens. That's allowed in this country. Just don't obstruct commerce. Don't sit down and close highways. Don't cause and infringe on other people's rights by ganging up on them in their cars, forcing them to run you over to save their own lives, knowing that they're going to get prosecuted for it by crooked district attorneys. So that's the kind of thing that Trump is going to crack down on before it gets out of hand. And he has the power of his pen now. Now he can sign an executive order. Say, okay, all of St. Louis now doesn't get funding because they didn't do anything about this rioting. Now they can come up with their own money to pay for their schools. There's a lot of things Trump can do. In the past, he would have been chastised for it. because the media had more power, because Trump had just barely beat Hillary. They spent a lot of time saying it was illegitimate. They invested a lot to discredit Trump. But he had a successful presidency, even with COVID. And a lot of people believe that Trump won in 2020 also, and that he was cheated. So a lot of people feel vindicated because you can't do that now. Trump has been there before. He's not a newcomer. He has a record from when he was there. So now the media is at a disadvantage, because now what are they going to do? Scream that he's a racist some more when 25% of black men voted for him? Puerto Ricans voted for him? Women voted for him? So all they have left is blaming Kamala or blaming Joe Biden. So personally, I'm thankful that Joe Biden selected Kamala Harris, a radical communist out of California, for vice president. And if we're going to get into divine intervention, I got to get this out there. All right. I watched Biden's speech today. Biden was sharp as a tack. No mumbling, no slurring, no stuttering. He spoke like he used to. And he has his moments like that. Even the ones that have been bad, and I'm not talking about the debate, I'll get to that in a minute. I'm talking about the other clips we see where he can't get sentences out and things like that. But this time, he gives a speech today. He had a gleam in his eye. He looked focused. He almost looked like he was really happy Kamala lost, which he probably was. Because now he can say, if you had left me in there, we would have won. And he very well may have. I hate to say it. I don't think he would have. I don't. A lot of people are saying, well, they should have chosen somebody else besides Tim Walz for a running mate. They should have chosen Shapiro in Pennsylvania. They still would have lost. They would have lost. Kamala sucked, period. And they ran a bad campaign. They didn't talk about kitchen table issues. They tried to show empathy towards those issues, but they didn't offer solutions. Instead, they switched to abortion, abortion, abortion. We can win with the women vote. Turns out, like I said on my walks, abortion is important to a lot of women, but paying your rent and eating is more important. And that's what you get with a bunch of rich elitists that don't think about that, because they don't have any problem eating or paying their rent. So they're out of touch. Call that arrogance, whatever you want to call it. But point being is that's it. The election's over. They lost. They would have lost no matter who they had, if they would have run the kind of campaign Kamala did. So what's good about that is Biden was clear as a bell today when he was speaking. I'm watching that and I'm like, wow, can you imagine if he had been sharp like that in that debate against Trump? Everything would have been different. I still think Trump would have won, but I think it would have been a little more difficult because Biden's been around the block. He's an established name. He has a lot of experience in DC. He's not a newcomer. Kamala, nobody knew who she was. So there's a lot of advantages to that. They didn't have enough time to establish anything. And they made dumb decisions, like keeping her away from the media, which I still believe had to do with her Marxist campaign people who probably read somewhere in a book that was the best way to do it if you're a communist. And or something like that, you know what I mean. And it didn't work. And then by the time they wasted 2 months doing that, they had to cram everything into the last month. And she didn't do well because she didn't have any practice doing interviews. And Kamala is notorious for not wanting to do the homework. She'll have her cue cards, she'll memorize her lines, and if you ask her the questions, if she knows what's going to be asked, she'll have a good answer that she memorized, okay? Well, la-di-da. We've seen what she does when she has to stop and think of something to say. Blank. It's a blank sheet. So, this is all really good and interesting. So anyway, they forced her on the public without anybody voting. CNN's been talking about that. And MSNBC is in complete denial. I watched clips from The View. They're having their meltdown, folks. They're not taking this well. Stephen King still has not come back on the internet. Mark Hamill made one post. He's wrecked. And so this is a big shock to their system because they were in their bubble. Their bubble of joy. They were all joyful warriors being told that Trump's Orange Hitler. We got this in the bag. There's no way Trump can win. The media was saying, you know, then they brought out Alan Lichtman. There's another beauty. I'll give Alan Lichtman credit though. If you're not familiar, he's a college professor who has correctly predicted since the early 80s, actually I think since 1989, he has correctly predicted every presidential election. And then, except for one, he got one wrong, but he actually did predict that Trump was going to win in 2016. And so anyway, all the networks carted him out. You probably recognize who I'm talking about. He looks like he wears a hairpiece, and he's got a friggin' bow tie, which means he's a liberal. Okay, these liberal guys, these educated, college-degreed older men, boomers, they all wear these friggin' bow ties, and they think it's cool. They get different designs on them. Suspenders too, usually. He does wear suspenders. So they wear these pressed shirts, button-ups, with a bow tie, and they wear suspenders, and they're supposed to be really cool. So anyway, he comes on all the networks, starts talking about how he's got all these keys, 13 keys, and this is why Kamala's going to win. Okay, he gives this whole thing. I'm not going to go through the list. I knew he was wrong on about 5 of them. So I did some more research on him, and he actually has a YouTube channel, and I checked out some of his past videos having nothing to do with his predictions that he does with his son. Hardcore liberal leftist. This guy is a Trump hater. He hates everything about Trump. He openly says it on his channel. He just doesn't say it when he goes on TV with the media, okay? So that's why his prediction was wrong. Psychology was telling him, Trump looks good in these, but I hate Trump so much, we're not going to say that. We're not going to believe that. I'm going to force myself to believe that Kamala Harris is actually a good candidate and ignore the obvious. And that's what he did. So now he was forced to post a video online saying that he got it wrong. He's going to go back and reanalyze the data and perhaps make changes to his keys. And I don't think he needs to change his keys. His keys normally make sense. Problem is, the guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He's a psychotic. Trump has damaged him. That's what happened. He needs to come to grips with that and understand that's what happened. and he fudged his own prediction that way. He forced himself to believe that there's no possible way Trump's ever going to win. You know, he led an insurrection and this and that and all the other stuff he learned from the media that he likes to go on that isn't true. So, very interesting. I love following stuff like that, especially after a big win like that. And believe me, the left is melting down. They are melted down. They could be the world's strongest titanium ever made, and they're melting down anyway. This has sent shockwaves everywhere in politics. That will be felt for decades to come. Trump is now the owner officially of the Republican Party, and that's it. There's no going back. The Ronald Reagan legacy is going to be nothing compared to this, okay? And that's it. That's it. Any future Republican that runs is going to have to support MAGA, Trumpism, country first, America first, the Constitution, and that the Republican Party, and this is going to be a big, big thing, okay? The Republican Party is a big tent. We will accept everybody. If you are gay, straight, black, white, purple, if you're an alien from another planet and you come here and become a citizen naturally, if you naturalize and actually become a citizen or earn a green card, which is I forget the exact term for it, an IC visa or something like that. That's the new term for a green card. But you come here and get one of those legally, and then that's fine. So we welcome everybody, old, young, smart, stupid, uneducated, educated, doesn't matter. It's time to unify as a country. Let these people that are going to try to refuse to let that happen damage the Democratic Party even more than it is. That's the Democratic Party's problem, not ours. We're in the driver's seat. We now own the country because now the country is owned by the Constitution, the rule of law, real law. So, since Trump has won, I have seen Letitia James in New York, the one that tried to lock him up and steal his properties and bankrupt him, say that they're going to fight every single thing Trump does from DC. She is going to use law, she said. Well, I don't know what you're going to do about law with federal dollars. Because if she tries to pull some kind of lawsuit shenanigans about deporting immigrants, which I think is what she was talking about, she's going to try to prevent legally from Trump removing immigrants. So this is going to be a long fight, but somebody is going to have a talk with Letitia James from the Democratic Party and say, look, we just had our own asses handed to us. Immigration was a big topic with voters that voted for Trump. So if you obstruct what we're doing, you're not going to help. We're going to lose the next election too. So somebody needs to tell Letitia James that. Or, better yet, the media, if they were smart and they really cared about the Democratic Party, which I think ultimately that's what you're going to see, I think you're going to go back to your usual equal criticism. They'll criticize Trump on something he's doing, but they'll also criticize some Democrats. They're going to try to play the middle, which is smart. That's what I want. We want an honest media. And, you know, these anonymous source stories, discrediting Trump, trying to make it look like he's corrupt. And I mean, the New York Times I seriously doubt they've learned their lesson. They're going to keep doing that. So it's up to the mainstream media to say that if we allow Letitia James to keep doing this, the people have spoken. That's the thing, okay? That's what people don't understand. Hopefully they will understand it. That this wasn't a small win. This was a Thor's hammer. Bam! And if the Democrats don't listen to it, they're going to keep losing. So they're going to force Trump to declare an emergency with the immigration problem. And they're going to be forced to go round up illegals with ICE, despite Letitia James' legal threats. Because that's what the people want. They voted for that. And they're just going to have to come to grips with it. This is no longer about Trump. A smart Democrat right now would see what just happened and fix what's broken, because if they keep doing the same thing they've been doing, they're going to lose even worse. The American people are tired of all this chaos, and they obviously blamed the Democrats. That's what happened. It was a big, huge defeat for the Democrats. So here comes that guy again that has his whole body covered with his face covered. The one, I think he has some kind of medical issues, like he was severely burned or something like that. Or he's very disfigured, one or the other. I'll say hi to him when he goes by. He's pretty cool. He seems nice. Hi, how you doing? So he nodded his head. He never says hi to me. I don't think he can talk. I think he has a real serious disfigurement. That's just the gist I get from it. Because like I said, you know, he just went by all dressed up with long sleeves and a reflective vest, and he has a wool hat, and he has his face covered up to his eyes. And every time I see him, he doesn't matter what the temperature is. It could be 95 degrees out and he'll be dressed just like he was there, all wrapped up and bundled. So he has some kind of condition. I don't know what it is. And you know, I'm not going to stop him and say, hey, what's wrong with you? I wouldn't do that anyway. Absolutely don't want to do that. I'm just saying, you know, it's nobody else's business. So we got a nice sun coming through the trees. You can see the water, the sun reflecting off the water. And pretty soon that's going to be ice out there. As soon as we start getting down to 32 overnight or less, which it will pretty soon, things are going to start freezing. I'm going to start thinking about, and it's all going to depend on the weather, folks. I told you that. As soon as we start getting snow and ice, my walks are going to end until spring. Or we get a window in between where everything melts and the sidewalks are open. But until then, I'm going to go with the mindset that any one of these days could be my last walk. And it all depends on the weather. The immediate future for the next week or two looks okay, so should be able to walk. Might be a little chilly, but that's not really what concerns me. So, anyways, even this winter, when we start getting cold, if it does prevent me from walking, I'm still going to go to places like Thorn Craig in the woods and do some hiking in the woods. I should scout me out a pair of snowshoes, so a small pair, something I can use to walk on ice and snow with, little spikes on the bottom, you know. I need something like that I can strap over my boots. So I can hear some ducks and geese out there squawking. flip the camera around. Give you a break from my face, I guess. So I hope you all having a beautiful week. I'm having a great week. Trump wins. I'm walking through Trump country. Everybody's taking their signs in. The battle is over. We came up victorious. Happy, happy days, folks. Happy days. 76 days from now, Trump will be sworn in, January 20th. Nothing can stop that now. The Democrats, looks like they're not going to have the House and Congress, thankfully. So we'll have at least 2 years of peace and quiet of people not trying to remove Trump. We're going to have a pretty good majority in the Senate. Right now, officially, as of today, we have 52 seats in the Senate, which is a good majority. Of course, you're always going to have a couple of people that don't like Trump. They might cause a problem. So there's about 3 more Senate races we're watching. I think, you know, isn't that terrible? You know, you win the Senate and now you got to worry about, you know, the friggin' anti-Trumpers, you know. But they saw the same thing, and this is why this is good too, okay? Trump's victory was so big across the whole entire country, the entire electorate. Trump gained in the blue states, he gained in the red ones. This was nationwide in unison. So the people in the Senate are not stupid. You know, they're going to see people like Brown or Casey. Casey was a Democrat that had run and didn't like Trump in the past, and now he tried to embrace him in this election and he lost. The Republican won. So I'm talking about Bob Casey. So these people, the voters are getting rid of them, you know. That's all good. That's all good. This is part of the process. But what I'm saying is that Susan Collins and these other people that don't like Trump in the Senate, they're not going to be able to be anti-Trump because it's not going to help them politically. So that's the other benefit about Trump winning so bigly, that's going to help that. So anyway, we're walking on here. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Pretty good. So we're going to see a lot of stuff come up on the legislature, Maine legislature. I'm waiting to see how that shakes out. And sometimes it takes Maine a little bit longer to count votes. We get that stupid ranked choice voting garbage. So I do want to say that Austin Terrio did lose. He's asking for a recount. He's within that margin of 2%. But I don't think the results are going to change, if I'm honest about it. So I would have liked to have seen Jared Golden get ousted because this district is so red. Trump won this district by almost 20 points. So it really is astounding to me that the way the districting is, unfortunately, a lot of the Democrat part of the state gets to vote for Jared Golden, and he kept his seat. So, and that's the way democracy goes. Okay, that's an honest loss. There was no ranked choice voting shenanigans involved. Okay, there was an other. I think it was 0.7%. 0.7%, but that was people probably doing a write-in because they didn't like either one. that sort of thing. So we have fair elections here in Maine, okay? Trump won this district handily. I knew he would, I told you that. And so with that, and this guy here can smell wood. He's burning a wood stove. See that? Get that nice burning wood smell. That's awesome. So anyway, oh, I love that smell. You know why I love that smell? I love that smell because every time I smell that, I think about when we were playing ice hockey outdoors. And once in a while, somebody's chimney smoke would waft across the lake while we were skating, playing ice hockey, pond hockey. And that's what that just reminded me of. Love that smell. So anyways, we had an election. And I got to tell you, nationally, with the exception of Arizona right now, and Nevada, the Republicans are right on it, watching every single damn thing they do, because they're trying to keep Kari Lake out of the Senate. And we also have Brown, who was that war veteran that's disfigured, who ran for office. He's very, very, very close to winning the Senate seat in Nevada. And we need to make sure that they don't cheat. And the Republicans say they're right on it. And I believe it. The Republican Party this year armed up with lawyers before the election instead of waiting until after, when they realized that they had lost, and then try to win with that. Now, the Republicans this time had like 1,000 lawyers distributed all throughout the battleground states, and they were watching everything, and they did a good job. I think they prevented a lot of cheating in this election. We had people arrested for faking voter registrations in Pennsylvania. They'll be prosecuted. And we had a lot of dishonesty nipped in the bud. They tried to do that in Bucks County. The Republican lawyers I told you about filed a lawsuit that forced Bucks County to open an extra day because they sent voters home to try to pad the vote. They had partisanship in the polling place when you're not supposed to in the polling place. And they had the courts demand that. And they did. And guess what happened? The Republicans flipped Bucks County. It was awesome. So everybody should be very happy for a whole bunch of different reasons. Also, most elections you see in the future, I think even the Democrats are going to do what the Republicans did, what Trump did. They are going to outsource their canvassing instead of having party volunteers. They're going to pay a company to do it in a bipartisan manner, using the latest technology and smart ways of doing things. And we saw how well that paid off in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin for Trump. He swept all of them. So there's a lot of really good things. Those were things that Trump did for the first time ever. Nobody had ever done that before. And the media was laughing at him for it. They kept saying he doesn't have a ground game. He doesn't have a ground game. Oh, he doesn't have a ground game like the Democrats do, is what they're saying. He had a ground game. He got people that usually low propensity voters, that's what they're called. They got those people to go vote. They registered people, they kept in touch with them, they followed up, and they made sure they voted. And that made the difference. And they were thankfully helped by a piss poor candidate for the Democrats. who installed her without proper democracy or the democratic process. And in hindsight, it looks like they did everything they needed to lose. So, glory be to God for that, which I never finished my story. Well, Biden giving his presser today made a speech, and he openly said that this election was won fair and square, and there was no shenanigans. Trump is the next president. Nobody should dispute that. We're going to have a peaceful transfer of power, and I'm really thankful that he did that. All right, that was really important, especially after he was calling Trump a Hitler and fascist, and I think he realized that wasn't right. But they didn't want Trump to win, and they were desperate. So desperate times calls for desperate measures. But the point being, when he did this press conference, he was sharp, really sharp, like I hadn't seen him in a while. And when he did the debate, he was a wreck. He was horrible. So maybe that was divine intervention. Maybe God did something to help out Trump, because that caused the upper DNC and the societal Democratic Party elites to panic. We can't have Trump for president, so that's it. Biden, you're out. You got to get out. So they forced him out, and they shoved in Kamala non-democratically. I don't care how they try to paint that. They can say, well, you know, the delegates, they agreed to give their delegates to Kamala. Well, once you throw a candidate out there, they kind of have to, don't they? I mean, technically they don't have to, but you're forcing them to. You know, what happens if the delegates in California, per se, don't want to do that? Or Texas. I mean, the Democrat coalition from there. They have to. So, or you end up without a party nomination, which is what they should have done in hindsight. They should have held their delegates maybe as a union and said, we need to have a vote and we need to have somebody the people choose, or this isn't going to work. And it didn't work. So, I'd like to hear your comments on that. I'd be interested to know what you think about that, because it is important. I'm going to wait till these cars go by so I can cross. And you can see the sun's just about ready to go down. Coming up on the end of the walk anyway. But, you know, did God intercede and Biden had a bad night? Because previously, even when he was bumbling and stumbling, he would manage to get through his press things. He'd be a little incoherent once in a while, but, you know, that debate, that's the worst I've ever seen anybody perform. And he hasn't done it since. So you tell me, you know, was that a little mild joke from God or what? Part of the plan? We'll never know. But I am going to go across the street here. We got a couple of dogs across the street, and we got a couple of older people walking those dogs. And I'm not going to say that's, you know, but I just know from experience that I should be on this side of the street, especially with the size of that dog. Look at him. He's freaking huge. That's a huge dog. Right? That dog is huge. He's a big boy. Wow. And the black dog's like, hey, you're giving that one all the attention. I'm gonna go back over here. Wow, that's a big dog. So anyways, I guess we'll never know, but you know, Trump turns his head at the last second and avoids having the whole back part of his skull blown off. And Butler, he ends up winning Butler to win the election. That's really the one that won it for him. And you know, the other irony to that nobody's talked about is they had voting machine problems in Butler. Very heavy Republican area, and the machines didn't work on voting day, of course, right? So, and that happened at many places in western Pennsylvania that's very red. And Republican lawyers were right on that, like flies on cow dung. And these people were issued provisional ballots. They filled out their paper ballots because the machines didn't work. They were watchdogged by the Republican legal army. And on election night, we had to wait for results out of Philadelphia. And guess what showed up? Guess what showed up in the middle of the night? Philadelphia. It was a few truckloads, about 4 trucks worth of ballots. And the whole internet world was like, here we go, they're going to steal the election. I'll flip this around. They were like, here we go, they're going to steal the election, right? It turns out that 3/4 of the ballots on that truck were all Trump votes. That showed up there because the lawyers showed up in western Pennsylvania. If that is not the best irony ever, I don't know what is. So, it was a great night on so many fronts. The other thing that happened that didn't get much media traction was in Milwaukee. Several voting machines had flash drive problems in the Milwaukee suburbs, where it was expected that maybe Trump might do okay. So the flash drives in the voting machines, through voter poll worker incompetence, okay, they made a mistake. They didn't lock up the flash drives. I think they did that in 2020 and they didn't get caught. And what that means is you load up flash drives ahead of time with votes in favor of your candidate, and then you replace the flash drives in the machines after you've boarded up the windows or after a water main breaks. See where I'm going here? So the Republican legal team that was deployed and had to sue to be in the room when they were counting had experts with them in voting and machines. And the voting machine was, they had several voting machines that had the flash drives unlocked, supposedly through human error. Okay, they weren't doing anything illegal or dishonest. Wink, wink. They got caught. So this would have been thousands of votes in favor of Kamala if they were cheating. And it wasn't human error, okay? If it wasn't human error, it was cheating. But the official report is it was human error. They left the flash drives unlocked so anybody could access them. Let's just leave it at that. So they had processed 30,000+ ballots through those machines. So the Republican lawyers forced them to do a manual hand recount of the ballots that those machines tallied because of their flash drive shenanigans. So the ballots were recounted, and a lot of them favored Donald Trump. So they got caught. here and there. It was a very smart strategy by Laura Trump, who is now the head of the RNC. And because of the work that they did, we had an honest election and we won honestly. Now, I'm sure there was still some cheating that's going to be uncovered. But the point is, Trump won, and that's what matters. So, I think the big surprise for me was CNN had to put that graphic on TV showing that Trump had a 6% lead towards the end of the election in Michigan. That is a shellacking, okay? That was supposed to be the easiest state for Kamala to win, and she didn't. She lost by a lot. So, you know, that makes me wonder if cheating did happen in Wisconsin, did happen in Pennsylvania, but we caught enough of it and we made it too big to rig. Remember that? Remember I told you that mathematically it gets to a certain point where they can't cheat enough to win. So I'm sure Trump is going to keep his promise. Anybody that was caught cheating will be prosecuted. And he's going to investigate it with his DOJ, I'm sure. We have to. And I hope they make elections a priority among many that we have for the Republican House and Republican Senate that we have. Election laws that make sense. I don't want to see federalized elections. I do not want to see, I don't want to see the elections controlled by the government. So, because that can be abused by any party at any time, and we don't want that. So, anyways, I'm going to wrap up this walk here shortly. I wanted to say thank you very much for walking with me today. It's going to be dark soon. And as I said, enjoy the victory we had. It was pretty awesome. And stay thirsty, my friends. We've got a lot of good things coming to this country in the next 4 years. And it is going to be really good. We have a president now who has all the experience with people trying to knife him in the back and everything else. And we're going to have better people. And the last thing I'll end this with is Grover Cleveland was elected president a long time ago. And then he didn't get elected. And then he ran again and he won. So Trump is only the second president to have 2 terms that were not consecutive. So, unfortunately for Grover Cleveland, his second term was not successful. That had to do with gold currency at the time and the silver industry, and it heavily influenced politics in DC. And he was on the wrong side of that. He wanted to come up with a new gold standard, and you had a lot of powerful people against that. So there was different things, different times then. We had the railroad industry at the time was huge. So he ended up getting a bunch of people in DC, basically stabbed him in the back, messed up his entire presidency, and it was not a good one. So, despite his first one being good, and that's the point I'm trying to make. They're going to be out for Trump, okay? And he needs to protect himself, because he could end up having a really terrible presidency, and then all of this is for nothing. So, I'm sure he's aware of it. But anyway, I just thought I would bring that up to end this walk with, where it's nice to be up nice and high right now, feeling like we won, because we did. But Satan is always in the background plotting. And plot they will, okay? So anyway, click like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Thank you for walking with me. And we'll see you on the next walk, friends. Thank you very much. I really, really mean it. And we will talk to you soon on the next walk. Have a beautiful week. Till we talk again. Bye-bye, folks.